What's going on, party people? It's AJ and B. Strauss.
Hey guys.
We miss you so
Yes,
much.
we do.
Like so much. Who do you miss the most?
Oh, that's an unfair question.
That's true. I'll say names. I miss. Well, I was gonna say my brother because then I can't get in trouble for that.
was
But
safe.
I see him all the time. No, but seriously, we miss you all so much, and just thought we would do these little podcasts, weekly devotional things, just to. I don't know. I feel like God really started doing a work in our ministry this year that was pretty powerful, and there was a lot of momentum, and my heart was like a little bit sad when this whole coronavirus thing happened because I just felt like there was this halt to this movement that I thought God was starting to do in this ministry. But the more that I've been pressing in and thinking about it, like I actually think this is not that God caused this season by any means, but like he wants to work all things good for those who love him. Yeah. So like the momentum doesn't really have to stop, you know? Good. In fact, so like, I actually think the reason we want to do these little weekly things or however often, you know me, I'm not the most organized human in the world, but the reason we want to do this is because like we want to create momentum so that when we come back next year or summer or whatever the heck it's going to be, like we're picking back not where we left off, but actually further.
So good.
You know, further than we go. So fired up to be with you. But essentially what Britt and I want to chat with you about a little bit today is just the reality that I think a lot of us right now, I know Britt, you've talked to a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people where because of this whole virus thing, because of the isolation, because people are alone, it's really kind of, what's the best way to say, like hindered our spiritual growth. Is that kind of what you've heard, or what have you heard?
I've heard a lot of it's just cause I don't know where to put it in my schedule, or things look different. I don't know where, and I just don't have the desire to like dive in where I was before when I was with people.
Totally. I think there's like almost this spirit of apathy that really wants to come and cause disappointment when we're in seasons like this. Like, I think that's one of the number one things that happens when we get alone and isolated and kind of, and honestly, this doesn't even have to be like, obviously we're all isolated right now because of the virus, but we can emotionally isolate ourselves. Right. And
Absolutely.
I think when we even emotionally isolate ourselves from people and withdraw from community, even in our own hearts, it actually also has a really big effect on our walk with Jesus. And so kind of just what we wanted to talk today is like, and what, if you don't know what apathy means, like essentially you have no drive, no passion, no motivation to continually seek his face.
Yep.
Right. And the thing that we want to be above all else is people who seek first the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
Right. Like we want to be people that regardless of disappointment, regardless of seasons changing, like we want to be a faithful people who show up in the presence of God. Like
so good.
That's what we want. Yeah. And so, but in order for us to do that, when we are experiencing seasons of apathy and disappointment and all those things, and by the way, usually when you have this lack of like motivation to seek God, the very next feeling or emotion you run into is disappointment. Yeah. Because shame comes in, right? And you start beating the poop out of yourself and it's not good.
Yeah.
You know? So we just want to talk about why the spirit apathy kind of comes on in seasons like this. We want to talk about, like why that comes and kind of how to press in the midst of it. Sound good?
Mm-hmm. That's good. So
I think the first and main reason a lot of you right now may be experiencing like apathy in your walk with the Lord is simply the reality of the power of your environment.
Yeah.
You know, like the reality is, you guys, like River House, like the college campuses that you're on, like all these things, there are powerful people who have gone before you and have fought through seasons of apathy and seasons of disappointment, so that when you show up to church on Sunday, so that when you show up to the events that we do, like there's presence there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's the same thing for me. I remember, and I'll let Britt share any stories after this, but I remember the last church I worked at, it was not like a, super passionate church. I'm not talking bad about it. It was beautiful. Like the community was awesome, but just like the fire and hunger and presence of God wasn't top priority. And I remember like working there and just feeling like I was this lone soldier, but I didn't really have any apathy then, because I was like, I'm the one that's going to fight to see like more of the presence come. Then I took a little break and I went to Mozambique with Heidi Baker's ministry, and I encountered the glory of God and his presence unlike I've ever encountered it in my life. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is insane. I would go to conferences to get my little like church high going,
So real.
Right? And go to like this conference, I'd read this book just to get this like presence fired up. And then I remember I came back from Mozambique and I'm like, I got it now. It's there. Like I got it. We're going to do the presence is going to show up everywhere I go. And I get back and it was like, bleh, just flat. And I remember being like, God, like, what is this? And the Lord said, he's like, AJ, like Heidi and Roland Baker and these people that you just said, they fought for years. They fought for years to experience and to like have that presence be so vibrant in that community. And it's how they suffered well, how they pressed on when they didn't feel like it, how they pressed on in environments that were a heck of a lot more tumultuous than like I've ever gone through. Yeah. That like was the thing that really fired them up, But I know even for you, like going home and stuff is sometimes hard for you. You want to chat about that for a second?
Yeah. So I think for me, and this has been a constant journey, and Jordan talked about this a couple weeks ago, but this desolation and consolation where you're in this place with the Lord, where you're feeling things and he's speaking and it's beautiful. And then you hit this point where you're like, where are you? Yeah. Like, am I sure you're real? Because 2 weeks ago I thought you were, and now I'm not sure. And it turned into this thing where I realized, honestly, at River House, it's really easy to consume because the culture is so vibrant and beautiful and the Lord is here and there is so much glory on it. And then I will go home, my old home, Boise's home now, but I would go back to Spokane. I would be with my family. The environment is full of unhealthy relationships and activities, and I don't hear the Lord. I don't like being able to set time. Where am I going to have my quiet time? Because no one here understands that, and there's no space. And so like trying to cultivate an area where I seek the Lord, and it wasn't a priority for me. So instead of seeking God, I would just submerge myself into what the environment was. And I would put my number one thing in my life, being my relationship with the Father, would be put to the side, and I would come back to Boise defeated every single time, and I'd start this process all over again. Wow. And I think this last Christmas was the first time that I went back to visit my family, and I said, no matter where I'm at, no matter what my situation is, no matter what I'm feeling, I'm going to open my Bible. Come on. I'm going to read the word. I'm going to fight to pray, and I'm going to worship, and I'm going to choose grace. Even if I don't feel the grace on it, even if I don't see it, even if I'm not hearing anything, like I know my God is with me. And to be honest, the Lord didn't speak to me much in that week. He didn't say a lot. The word wasn't coming alive to me. My prayer time wasn't this crazy, powerful thing. My worship wasn't this anointed thing. But I've seen the fruit of that as I've come back, and even in the end of winter and beginning of spring, where it's like that week cultivated something in me where I fought for my relationship with the Father, despite what I was feeling in the moment, for the fruit of what's to come on the other side. So good. And so I think what I learned is like those seasons come and they go, and there's feelings and there's not feelings, but it's like my favorite thing is that when you fight for your relationship with the Father when there's not feelings, right, it makes the relationship so much more powerful.
So good.
Yeah.
That's so good. And look, like we're not sitting here saying like, "Oh, we've done this so well."
Not a
and it's
chance.
because of us that you've experienced the power of God. Like that is absolutely not what we are saying. But we are saying we've learned the hard way.
100%.
Right? Like
the hard way for sure.
One of the biggest, well, yeah, I can say this, one of the biggest bouts of shame that I've ever gone through. Wow, I wasn't planning on saying this, but I feel the grace on it. But was the fact that I could lead a church and people would experience the power of God when I would preach. This is my last church and stuff. And then I would get home and I would be a different man because I wasn't feeling God in that moment. I would only feel God when I was preaching. And my wife would see this dichotomy in my life. And I don't know if I want to go as far as saying like hypocrisy, but probably was a bit where like I would experience the power of God. Like he used me in my brokenness to preach messages where people would get wrecked.
Yeah.
But then I'd go home and I'd feel like a failure. And I'd feel like a failure because I knew I wasn't waking up and like prioritizing my relationship with the Lord.
Wow.
And I remember like the Lord said, I can use you. Like, it's not about like you're gifted, AJ, you're anointed, AJ, like as all of you are. Like he doesn't need us to be like these spiritual giants in order to use us.
Wow. Yeah.
And I remember the feeling of just being sick to my stomach because I was like, I'm watching God use this impure vessel, but he's just using me. And I'm like, I don't care. Like I want to be used by him, but more than anything, I want to know him.
Wow.
And like the way we know him is by continually showing up like over and over and over again, even when we don't feel like it, and I think that's what God's doing, Brett and you guys, like, in this world right now. I really do. I think he is shaking the foundation of this world because a lot of us have been used by God in powerful ways. Maybe some of us haven't, but a lot of us have just come to church, and I am just as guilty of this as everyone else, but come to church to consume, to consume, to consume, to consume. And then you take me out of this environment and I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And God is beautifully shaking up everything in us so that the unshakable in us can rise. Because at the end of the day, like what will bring out true revival, what will bring out a true move of the Spirit of God is when a people know him.
Yeah.
A people know him in the highs and people know him in the valleys. A people know him in the seasons of abundance and in the seasons of isolation, there we know how to connect with the King of Glory. And I believe that only happens if we continually press on, and I'm so thankful for this season. And I'm a stinking extrovert, so this is hard.
It's like so hard.
It's so hard. But we have to, like, I told the Lord, Jordan really inspired me. It was like I was praying that God would just come and he'd deliver us all from this virus. And that still is a prayer. Obviously, I don't want anyone to get sick or to die, but I want the principles and the reality and what God is trying to do right now in this world. I want it to lead us to his feet and lead us to a bride that is only concerned about the unshakable kingdom rather than the things that can actually be shaken all around us. And I was going to read it, but we're kind of talking a lot. Just spend some time reading Hebrews 12. What is it? 28 through just the end. It's and you can even read the before pieces, but it talks about all throughout history what we see in the Bible.
Yeah.
Is God would allow affliction to come upon a people to force them. It's actually not force. It's because he so loves us. He would allow affliction and he allows pain and he allows hard seasons to come because he wants to show us that he is our healer. And he wants to show us that he is the source of it all. So he allows earthquakes. He allows viruses. He allows plagues and exiles and rulers that we don't agree with and to come into our lives to refine us.
So good.
And so essentially yes, I love you and I'm sorry that you're experiencing apathy right now.
Yeah, it's so hard.
And you're experiencing disappointment, but also I'm so happy.
Yeah.
Because it's I'm so fired up right now on the Old Testament. That's never happened before. But I'm so fired up. But seriously, you guys, every story in the Old Testament, it seems is God saved and redeemed a people. Then they disobey him because they've just become consumers. Mm-hmm. And so then he removes himself.
Oh my gosh.
And he withdraws.
Yeah.
And he allows pain and he allows suffering and he allows things to happen because he so loves us and he wants us to be completely yielded and connected to him. Mm. And I just even read the book of Exodus, read about Gideon, read Ezekiel, read these prophets and these Joshua, these men of old who they experienced the glory of God. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then God would remove himself because of disobedience. And he was still for them. He was still for them. But at the end of the day, he removed himself because he longs to be our sole provider. I was telling Brett and Jacob this week that the book of Exodus, there's this part right after they get delivered from the land of Egypt. And I've never read this verse. Well, I mean, I've read the verse before. I've never
read it.
I've never read the book of Exodus. No, but I've never seen it before or allowed it to speak to me. And it said, I'm paraphrasing, I'll include it in footnotes some way, but it essentially said God speaking to Moses, and he says, obey my commandments because I want to teach you how to remain free from the diseases that I afflicted onto the Egyptians, for I am the Lord your healer.
So good.
And it showed me, we as charismatic Christians, or whatever the heck we are, spirit-filled people who believe that God can heal, essentially, have so taken comfort in I'll just pray for healing. I'll just pray for Brittany to be healed. I'll just pray for AJ to be healed. I'll just pray for that and God will instantaneously heal them. And that's true. God will do that. But what this verse showed me is he said, I will teach you how to remain free of the diseases that I placed on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord your healer. He actually wants to teach us how to remain healthy, which is so powerful.
So powerful.
Wow, we just talked a lot.
Oh, God's good.
So essentially, you're experiencing apathy and disappointment. Allow God to love you and nurture you there.
Yeah.
But press on, yo.
Yeah.
Keep showing up. He is shaking you right now. He's getting rid of all the old habits, and he is giving you new habits. And that's kind of what I want to just share. We want to share with you. It's press on right now.
Yeah.
Press on. Dig deep. Read your Bible if you don't feel like reading it.
Yeah. Yeah, the gift of that pressing in is far more than you could ever imagine. What you'll find in the pressing in a time of apathy, you'll look back on it and you'll be thankful for the rest of your life.
100%. And I think even for me, and I know for you too, Brett, we've been chatting and talking and just realizing that he's trying to create habits in us right now that are to last.
Yeah.
For me, for example, I would spend my time with the Lord in the morning, but then kind of just live the rest of my day. And then evening time, I'd just binge and binge and binge and binge and binge Netflix and all these things. And even in this, during this virus, I have just kept on with the same patterns that I had before the virus. And one of the things the Lord showed me, and this is just for me personally, was like, I want your mornings and your evenings. I want them both, because I was in an unhealthy rhythm where what I would do is I'd wake up in the morning, I'd have my quiet time. I would always be groggy. Always be groggy and tired, because the night before I was binging Netflix, staying up till 2 a.m. Luke Wick spent the night at my house a bit, so he knows exactly what I'm talking about. And then I would wake up and I'd be so groggy, and I wasn't my best self for the Lord. And what I found, like, just a simple new habit, a new rhythm that, like, he wants to do in me right now is, AJ, give me your mornings, give me your evenings. So yeah, I spend an hour, a couple hours with the Lord in the morning. I live my day, and then I don't allow my phone in the bedroom with me anymore.
Wow.
I don't watch TV past 10:30. Sometimes I'll push it to 11, but I don't go to bed till about midnight, 1 anyways. And I just lay in bed and I read. And I've been reading about revivals and reading about all these things. And it fires me up for in the morning when I wake up. I'm like ready to go, dude. I'm not even tired. It's pretty sweet. But what about you, Britt? You got any new habits? I guess my question is this. It's twofold. It's, do you have any new habits that the Lord is doing in this time? Or are you kind of seeing the fruit of you pressing in the past in seasons of apathy, to where, like, you've developed such healthy rhythms back then that now you're, like, in a healthier place? Or what does it look like for you?
So for me, I am seeing, actually, I'm in a fruitful season where I've seen a lot of fruit of what my apathy in the past and pressing in has brought into this. So my routine has pretty much stayed the same, in that in the morning I've spent several hours with the Lord, which is something I fought for, because I used to think it was so boring, and now I can't get enough time in the morning.
Come on.
But I also end my evenings with the Lord as well, so it's twofold. But I think one thing that has shifted in this season that I didn't know I needed, but this ability to actually dwell in the presence throughout my day. Working at home has taught me what it looks like to actually just constantly be in communion with the Lord throughout the whole day. And it's changed my perspective on a lot of things. But another thing I've done is, and Jordan preached about this weekend, but I created a prayer space in my room, because I have roommates, so we don't have like a prayer room or anything. But I created this prayer space in my room and just really have allowed the Lord to take that center place in my life. So it just looks different. But yeah, my time with the Lord is very much coming from a place of fruit, but it was from a place of diving in hard for a year, more than that, several years of like, I need to read the Bible. How do I read the Bible? I want the Bible to come alive. I want my prayer life to come alive.
So good.
And finally, I feel like I'm at this place where I'm like, gosh, I just want to commune with God all the time. I can't get enough of you.
Come on. That's so fire.
Yeah.
So you guys, he wants to develop new habits. He wants to develop new rhythms for your life.
Yeah.
And I want you, like, honestly, one of my big takeaways that I want you to walk away with this from is, I want you to look at your daily rhythm. And look, gosh, you guys know me by now, or a lot of you do. Like, I am not a disciplined human being. Like, I am a free spirit. I like to go with the flow. I like to go where the Spirit is leading me. And there is beauty in that. Of course.
Yeah.
There is beauty in that. But I have been so convicted, reading about some of the greatest revivals in history started, with men and women who just, like, showed up, regardless of what they felt, regardless of what season they're in. They prioritize time with the King more than anything. And it's put this hunger in me to, like, just, man, think about what it could be like next year when we all come back together, and we've spent this whole summer and this whole quarantine together, like, just, well, not together, but like together, and maybe one of you will get a vision of all of us being in the third heaven together.
Come on.
But seriously, like, what would it look like if we all just sought him with everything we had? Like, so that when we come back, this next year, like, we'd encounter something so much deeper and more than we could ever imagine.
Yeah.
You know, and he wants to meet you in the environment you're in right now. Like, you don't have to be in a River House environment or your college campus or with your friends. Like, you don't. Like, it's called the secret place for a reason.
Yeah,
it's between
so
you
good.
and him. Look, prayer meetings are great. Like, we will continually do them.
Yeah.
Retreats are great, but nothing could ever be more important than the secret place.
So good.
And so we just encourage you to just keep pressing on and just keep diving deeper, because you guys, all throughout history, God has used young adults to spark the greatest revivals in history.
Wow, yeah.
Like, the first church was filled with all young adults. The Welsh revival, which is one of the greatest revivals that has ever taken place, like 16 to 23-year-olds, you know? And so we just want to encourage you to press on.
Yeah.
Whoa. That was weird. Something on our whiteboard just fell off.
Maybe it was the Holy Spirit.
Maybe it was the glory. But yeah, so we want you to know that we love you.
Yeah.
And that we're here for you.
Absolutely.
And if you need anything, you reach out to us. You know, you reach out to Britt, to Lauren, to Carrie, to Sam, to myself.
Yeah.
We're here for you. And we're doing this because we want to see a move of God.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're doing this. I'm not in the ministry to, like, just be this comforter.
Yeah, no.
You know,
Yeah.
like, look, being a Christian's hard.
So hard. He didn't say it'd be
You know,
easy.
and I'm like, shoot, if I want to be a Christian, like, I want to see the glory of God come.
Come on.
I want to be lukewarm, you know, like, I want to see him come.
Yeah.
And so we're doing this and we're encouraging you because we want to see a move of God. And the two things that we encourage you to do is, like, simply spend time with God regardless of how you're feeling.
Yeah. So
I don't care if you're laying on the ground in a starfish formation and just listening to I don't even know what that means.
I don't either.
But like just saying, God, consume me with your fire, or like if you're just listening to worship music or you're just reading the Bible, you don't, just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. And the second thing is invite, if you're struggling or even if you're not, invite someone in.
Mm-hmm. So good.
I can't tell you how many times I bet all you really need right now is encouragement. That's all you really need.
Yep.
That's all you need. And I can't tell you how many times I wish I would have invited somebody in when I had a season of apathy and trial and said, hey, my quiet time is not good right now. And I just wish I would have invited someone in to just look at me and say, press on, keep
real.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else, Brett?
No, I think I agree with Age. It's not about a feeling.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we don't feel like pursuing friendships, but we do it anyways. And we want to be pursued even
or
when we don't
boys
feel
and girls.
it. Or yeah, that too. But regardless, the Lord feels the same way. And so just dive in. And honestly, my prayer for you guys is that the word would just come alive to you.
Come on.
That changes everything, you know.
Yeah.
It is living and active, so.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I'm a pastor, and like, I can honestly tell all of you that the word of God this season is speaking to me more than it ever has.
Oh.
But there were a lot of times where I did not connect with the reading of Scripture, but it's speaking to me now. And I think what literally developed that was just keep reading, even when you don't want to read.
Come on.
So we love you.
So
you
much.
have the time, I think, unless you're a nurse, but I don't think you really are.
Most of you are still in school, so.
But we love you. Reach out, and I don't know. We'll send one of these every once in a while.
Come on.
Love you guys.
Love
Bye.
ya.